So you can see here in Tabletop Simulator, we've actually loaded in all of the components for the Phoenix Syndicate. I'll take away that menu HUD. Including all the tiles, all of the cubes, the agent tokens, the guild board, even all the cards and stuff, and there's some nice programming that actually does all the setup for us. So I'm not going to run through the entire game. This is more of just a rules explanation. Tomorrow night, Thursday at 7 p.m., or possibly in the past if you're watching this later, we're going to be doing a live full demo on Twitch of a whole playthrough. So our Tabletop Simulator mod has this nice automated setup where I click this button and it randomizes all the tiles on the map. So one of the key aspects of the Phoenix Syndicate is that the galaxy board is randomly generated every time you play. So when you're playing it on a table, you just shuffle up the stack of tiles and you arrange them all into this pattern. And you don't orient them all the same way. You just attach them all in a big grid. And it's going to form an interesting network of connections. Between each pair of systems is a gate. And those gates show some color costs. And that's going to wind up being the cost that the cost to move from one system to another in colored cubes, which are called goods in the game. Furthermore, the color of each system, you can see that Faux Colony here produces 4 red cubes and 2 yellow cubes. So the board both is your source of cubes and the primary means for consuming them. So our setup script did the board, and it also dealt me 3 trade route cards. So trade routes are the other core element of the game. Every trade route card, and there are 77, depicts 3 of the worlds on the board. And it has a color based on which world is on the top of the trade route. So you can see this one shows Alpha Prime, Loosh Colony, and Yak Outpost. If I have this trade route in front of me, I'm going to want to get agents to all of those places. The main way of scoring points in Syndicate, which are called credits, is to turn in trade routes for places that you've got agents on all the systems for. So at the start of the game, you get dealt 3 system cards, and you choose one of them, and you discard the others to this nice fancy discard pile over in the corner. And that's the only time during the game that you have something hidden in your hand. After the initial setup, everything is totally open. Which is nice, because it means there's no hidden information, there's no memory elements, there's no thing where I have to remember, oh, did he pick up the contract for Helia or for Destune? I don't remember. We don't want that. It's not in the game. So the other part of initial setup is that you get to place 2 of your ships, which in the Tabletop Simulator mod here are these cylinders. They'll actually be a little nicer in the real version, but this was easier to 3D model. And along with those ships, you get to start out placing agents. Agents are going to be triangular tokens, and these will all be plastic bits in the game. So I chose this contract, or this trade route for Alpha Prime, Loosh Colony, and Yak Outpost, which means that I probably want to start somewhere near those worlds on the map. So I'm going to start with 1 ship on Alpha Prime, and I'm going to put the next ship over here on Vosk. So during setup, you get to pick 1 of 3 trade routes, you get to put out your 2 ships in adjacent systems, and each of them gets an agent. Your agents are what give you presence at all of the systems on the map. As the game goes on, you'll get agents in more and more places, and the agents don't move once they're down. They just mark that you've, gotten inroads into that system's economy or whatever place you want to steal stuff from, because we're syndicates. We're not exactly buying goods. We're taking them because we deserve them. Cubes are nice. And the agents are also the timer for the game. Once I've put all of my agents on the board, the game will end. And when any player does that, it'll trigger the end game round. So that's setup. Setup is just deal out the cubes. Deal out the tiles. Everyone gets 3 trade routes, picks 1, puts out their starting ships and agents, and then some starting cards are dealt out. So after your initial trade routes, The other trade routes you'll be getting during the game come from this market here, where there are 4 cards. And there's a whole deck of trade routes. There are 77 in total. And each time somebody takes one, a new one will come out from the deck and replace it. In addition, there is the guild board over here. And the guild board holds some more of your agents. And during the course of the game, you'll get to advance your agents up this guild board by spending cubes or doing other various things. And if you get your agent all the way to the top, it'll reach the advantage card. And you'll get some sort of one-off benefit that's really cool. In this case, we get to change a base into an agent and embed another agent. Free base build. They're all good stuff. You want them. In addition, when you get to the top, you'll actually put down another agent there, so that'll help you run out of agents faster. The third market of stuff are the upgrade cards. And the upgrade cards are actually one of the coolest parts of Syndicate, because these are how you upgrade your basic actions, which we haven't gone over yet, but I'll get to in a second. There's an upgrade market that once you take a card from, a new one will come out. It's a market. What do you expect? And what these upgrade cards do is they tuck under your player board and they enhance your basic actions. So in this case, you can see that the scheme action now gets this extra thing where I just gain 2 black cubes. That's pretty good. I like black cubes. I'm going to set this aside over here for right now, because what I'm going to do now is go over the basic actions of the game. So that's the structure and the setup, and when you begin playing, you'll choose a start player, and they will just take a turn. Taking a turn in Syndicate is really easy. You get to do one of these 5 things: deploy, infiltrate, expand, smuggle, or scheme. Each of the 5 actions is more or less explained on the action board, but I will go over them in more detail now. It's exciting. Thanks everybody over in the Twitch channel. And yes, I see that your hovercraft is full of eels. This is relevant to the game explanation. Alright, so let's start with deploy. So deploy says, pay 4 matching goods and change an agent into a base. And those are the icons for agent and base, a triangle and then a double triangle. Advance in that guild and then claim a trade route matching your base. So at the beginning of the game, we start out with 18 cubes, 3 in each of the 5 colors, and also 3 wild black cubes. So it says spend 4 matching goods. So if we do this on the very first turn, we're going to have to spend 3 of something and a black. So in this case, we've only got agents on 2 planets, so we don't have many choices here. But let's say we wanted to build a base on Alpha Prime. It's a purple world because the world is purple, and the icon in the A is purple, and the text is purple. That's what makes it purple. So I would spend 4 of these purple cubes. They'd go into the general supply, and I would build a base there. And what building a base means is taking one of your agent tokens and stacking it on top of the agent that's already there, meaning that you get this little nice star. And in the real version, they'll have little insets so that they fit together nicely like that. But that was a little too difficult to model on Tabletop Simulator also. Bases are good for a couple of reasons. One, you still have presence in the system like you would for an agent, but also when you turn in one of those trade routes, you're going to get 2 points instead of 1 for this system because you're better here. Furthermore, only 1 player can have a base on each system. So if you get there first, nobody else can build a base there. They can still put agents there, they just can't make their system awesome. It also says advance in that guild. So since we built a base on a purple system, we would get to advance our agent in the purple guild. Boop, up like that. And like I said before, if we do that 3 times, we'll get this advantage, which would give us a free upgrade, which is nice. And then lastly, claim a trade route matching any one of your bases. So if there's a trade route in the market that has Alpha Prime on it, and since I didn't carefully set this up, there isn't, I would be able to take it onto my board. We'll just, we'll pretend that I was good and actually planned this out well. So getting more trade routes is good because when you have the trade route, you actually are more or less in control of when it gets scored and that is good because you want to dictate when the points come out. The last thing you do when you take an action is you take this director cube off of it and set it aside. So I've used up deploy for right now, so I can't deploy again on a future turn until I get that cube back. Players would take turns, so everybody else would get a turn after that. And then it would be my turn. What was that? Oh. Somebody is asking questions, and those are not questions. Yeah, world color is the first color on the... trade route color is the first color on the trade route. It's the prime world, the one with a ring on it. The ringed planets, those are the 5 primes, always come first on trade routes. So second up is the Infiltrate action. Infiltrate says upgrade 1 action, and then advance in each guild up to 1 time by spending 4 matching goods. So upgrading an action means taking one of these cards from the market and tucking it under your board, doing the cool thing, which means for the rest of the game, whenever I scheme, I'm going to get to gain 2 extra black cubes. This is really good. Getting a good set of upgrades and maybe stacking 1 action is a really effective way to make your actions better than your opponent's. And the second part of Infiltrate is advance in each guild up to 1 time by spending matching goods. So I could spend 4 yellow and 4 green, say, and advance myself in the yellow and the green guild. And if I had a bunch of purple cubes, I could do that too. But you can only advance each guild once. Once you get to the top, so let's say I actually did this several times and got to the advantage, you get to take this advantage action immediately. So in this case, I get to take an upgrade, refresh one of my director cubes, and also gain a black cube, which is really good. In addition, when you finish up a guild track, you take one of your agents from your supply and put it at the first level of that guild track again. So you can keep getting that same advantage if you want. And furthermore, at the end of the game, each of these agents that you've got on advantage spots are called embedded agents, and they're worth bonus points at the end. They're triangular count, so 1, 3, 6, 10, or 15 points for 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 agents. This can be a nice boost, because final scores are in the range of 50 to 100, so 15 points can really turn the tide of a game if you get them all up there. And that's all listed here on the action board too. The end game scoring tells you how that works. One of the things we wanted to do with this game is make sure that the action board told you most of what you need to know, so that when you're sitting down to teach it, everyone has this in front of them, and they can be reading along, and the actions just kind of make sense. So we had a question about color blindness. The color blindness is mitigated in this game by having different icons for the 5 colors, which are on all of the gate edges and all of the good the good yields for each system. And hopefully that is enough. We tried a bunch of different shapes to make sure they were all different enough. We got the nice green leaf and the yellow starburst and the blue water droplet, the purple sun, and the red crazy balloon thing that I like. It is neat. Alright, so that is the Infiltrate action. Infiltrate lets you upgrade, and lets you do guild advances by spending cubes. Next up is Expand, which is the coolest action in the game because it means you get to put cubes on the board. When you expand, you get to open up any number of gates on the board, and then you get to move your ships. After you do that, you will put agents down on the destinations that you got to. So over here we see that we're on Alpha Prime, and let's say I want to get to Zaelon Outpost. So there's 3 purple and 4 yellow over here. So to do that, I would need to put down these 3 purple cubes and 4 yellow cubes. Let's say 3 yellows and a black on the gate. And this is totally working on Tabletop Simulator. So just pretend I stacked these all very nicely, and it was a very pretty stack, and that gate is now open for the turn. When you open a gate, it's only for the turn. It doesn't stay open for other players. And you can open as many gates on the board as you want, because you're going to want to move both of your ships. So let's say that I also had 4 purple cubes to open this gate. Totally not cheating and taking them from the supply. So you move both of your ships, and you can move them as far as you want. If I'd opened more gates, I can move it all the way down here. But whatever their final destination is, after all of the movement, is where you get to put down your new agents. So in this case, I'd get new agent on Zalon and on Sabian Core. And then all the cubes go away magically, and you've got new positions. That's how you spread out your network. You might notice that some of the systems have blanks on the edges. So there's nothing here, there's nothing here. It's not that you can't go through those, it's that you have to go through deep space to get to the other side of the gate. So to get from Alpha Prime to Vosk, if we hadn't started out there, would take you 3 blue and also 1 of each color. Because for each deep space transit you make, you have to spend 1 of each color of cube. So 1 red, 1 yellow, 1 blue, 1 green, and 1 purple. You don't have to spend a black, but you can use it as a wild again. And that's the whole expand action. You open gates, move your ships through, put down new agents, and take all the cubes off the board. Simple. Fourth is Smuggle. We've had all these ways to spend cubes, and Smuggle is how you get cubes. So Smuggle, place each of your ships on any system with your base or agent, and then each of your ships collects goods. So we get to pick up both our ships, and we can put them back down anywhere we want that we have an agent, including both in the same planet. If I wanted 8 green goods and 4 purple, I could throw them both down here on Vosk and just get a mountain of green, which is sometimes useful because, you know, maybe I want to go through from Vosk to Destune and Riga, and you can see all those green gates there. But however you do it, you put them down, and then you collect those resources from the bank. So in this case, I would get 4 purple from Alpha and 2 purple from Vosk, 4 green from Vosk, and 2 yellow from Alpha. So I would pick up all of those cubes and make this big cube clot, and oh, look at that. I am rich in cubes. It's great. The other part of Smuggle that's important is that once you place those ships down, that's where they are for your next actions. So if you smuggle before you expand, you get to pick where you're going next. And if you pick poorly, you're going nowhere. Many a expand action is thwarted by a foolish smuggle that preceded it. And that's Smuggle. Play ships, get goods. Also get good. Finally is the scheme action. The scheme action doesn't have a director on it because you can always take the scheme action, because scheme is how you get your directors back. So scheme says, for each empty action, place a director and gain a black cube. So you refresh all of the directors that you've spent, and you get 1 free black cube from the bank for doing so. I made a mess. Whoops. And then you can claim a trade route from the market by spending 4 matching goods and also advance in that guild. So let's say I want to buy that green trade route. So I'm going to take all these green cubes that I got, and I throw them into the supply, and I take this green trade route, and it is now mine. So it goes onto my board. Definitely doesn't glitch in horrible graphical ways. And then a new trade route comes into play on the market. So when this trade route comes out, it actually bribes up the other trade routes based on its color. This is a new green trade route, so we put 1 green cube on each of the other 3. Since the trade routes are completely random, their value is determined by the layout of the board and by the players, essentially. So if a really bad trade route comes up, you know, where the worlds are on the opposite corners, it's going to slowly accumulate more and more cubes until somebody takes it and gets all those cubes with it. Because if somebody else later takes this blue contract, they're going to get this green good with it. And that's how the game sort of balances out some of the randomness. All right, so that's scheme. Oh, and I would also get to advance in the green guild because I took a green trade route. Boop. And those are all the actions. That is really the meat of the game. In this case, since I have whoops, since I have an upgrade on my scheme action, I'd also get to take 2 more black cubes from the bank when I did that. The blacks are a little bit hard to see on this, but such is lighting and glare on my screen. Yeah, physical cards glitching out like that would be great. So that's most of the game. That is what you do. You have 5 different actions you can take. You take 1 on your turn. You probably have some upgrades. You get to do those also. And you keep going around on the table until somebody runs out of agents. When somebody runs out of agents, endgame is triggered, and you score points. So the last thing to go over is securing a trade route. So after a while, we will have, put lots of agents out, and I'm going to put some cheaty agents out here for Teal. Because Teal was doing all this stuff while we were talking. Look at that. Teal is so good. Your action board has space for 2 trade routes. When you acquire a third one, at the end of the turn, you have to secure one of them. And if you wind up with 4 or 5 somehow through wacky shenanigans, you have to secure more than one at the end of your turn. So let's say I want to secure this trade route right here. Let's say I got a third one, and this is what's happening. So we're securing this Alpha Prime, Loosh Colony, and Yak Outpost. Securing works as follows. For each system on the trade route that's being secured, every player gets 1 point for having an agent there, and 1 credit, sorry. Points or credits. So in this case, we've got Alpha Prime over here, Yak Outpost over here, and Loosh Colony over here. So on Alpha, I have 1 agent, so I get a point. And on Yak, I have an agent, so I get a point. And Teal has a base, so Teal actually gets 2 credits for that. And neither of us are on Loosh, so we get nothing for there. In addition to those basic points, the person who turned in the secure, the person who secured the trade route gets a bonus if they're on 2 or 3 of the systems on the card. So I'm on 2 of them, so I get a bonus of 2. Nobody else gets that bonus. It's only for the person who turns it in. If you're on all 3, you get a bonus of 4. And as usual, this is all explained on the player board in nice iconified fashion. So on each system, 1 credit per agent, 2 credits per base. For just you, 2 credits up on 2 systems, plus 4 up on all 3. At that point, the trade route gets discarded to the discard pile, and it is then gone. At the end of the game, if you have any trade routes left over on your mat, they get turned in and secured just in the same way. And then the last thing about endgame scoring is those embedded agents. If you have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, you can get up to 15 points for those. And that's it. That is pretty much all the rules for the Phoenix Syndicate, except for little weird things with some of the upgrade cards that, do interesting and wacky things, as cards are wont to do. So the game takes 60 to 90 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer for first-time players, because there's a lot of options when you first sit down and try it out. But it's pretty intuitive and easy to learn. Which like I said, we put everything on the action board so that you have this rules document in front of you on the table. So that if you're like, what does expand do again? You can just look right there and say, oh, it says open any number of gates, then move your ships. And that makes it easy. So a question from Twitch, can you decline to secure a trade route during endgame? The answer is no. Once you have a trade route in front of you, it will be secured. So if you pull a trade route off the board that you're not on at all, you can wind up giving everybody a ton of points, especially if they've got bases on them. And that's bad for business. All right, so that's it. That is our explanation of the Phoenix Syndicate. We're going to be doing a live playthrough of it, like I said, Thursday night at 7 o'clock Eastern. So you can join us back here on Twitch for that. And thank you all for tuning in.